That's the new official dance I just invented for my show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris, and this is a show where we just talk about the latest comic books that came out, the latest comic book news. There were some pleasant surprises that I really liked. I cannot wait to talk to you about a book that I really like, as well as the fascinating behind the scenes story about this. Some others that kind of surprised me that I didn't like as much, but I also tried some like a relatively new nonfiction book that I really want to talk about towards the end of the show. If there's time, I'll even do some drawing. But this is a show where we do news, reviews, and occasionally, when it's right, we do interviews, because I like things that rhyme. News, reviews, interviews. I'm excited, folks, because my guest tonight is a writer who you may have seen on things like Tales from the Bully Pulpit. He's worked in the Invincible universe quite a bit, Adam Eve especially. He's been a writer on The Tick, and I've known him since, I don't know, over 25 years maybe, right around that. And so tonight, please let me welcome a good friend of mine and a really talented comic book writer and historian, Benito Cereno. Hey, Benito.
What's up, Chris Pierce?
How you doing, buddy?
Hello, everyone watching the Chris Pierce live stream.
Thank you.
It's good to be here, man. I'm glad to be. I know you had me on for I did a little bit for the episode on The Tick, but it's nice to be on here. And we can have a chat. That was a while ago.
Yeah, but we came up just on a message board, and it seems like a lot of people from there have continued into having success. Look, Mike Todd is in the house.
Mike Todd.
But also, look who's here from
DJ.
Taiwan. Your artist on Blood and Thunder.
Blood and Thunder. More like I'm his writer, I think is the
that's
more
totally
appropriate
fair.
way to
Your
phrase
collaborator is maybe a more fair way to have said it.
Yeah, but talking about going back to small times, right? Like those guys right there, Mike Todd and EJ Sue, those are just a handful of some of the guys that we came up with back the old back when Wizard was a magazine and had a website and message boards were a thing.
I know, way before real social media message board. But yeah, Kerry Randolph, Robert Kirkman. I mean, dozens.
So many guys. Riley Brown. I saw him recently at a show.
Riley Brown.
Kari and Corey Walker, Robert Kirkman, Tony.
Yeah,
Moore,
of course.
Nate Bellegarde, Paul Mayberry, all sorts of guys, all sorts of people who are doing stuff now. Came up on either through Wizard School or Pencil Jack, which was kind of the successor that a lot of us moved to. And so
sure is.
Yeah. And so if you viewers, if you ever feel, hey, Randy Stone,
another guy from those days, that's another guy from those days. Altruist Comics, Bullet Adventures, available now through Massive Indies and Lunar Distribution. So
that's right. But if any of you viewers are ever watching one of Chris's videos and you go, he doesn't actually know those guys. He does. He does. Chris is friends with all of those people, and he's known them for like 25 years.
Well, so are you, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, because it's so fun, Benito, because you've got basically 3 books that are going to be coming out all at once, and that's just the vagaries of comic book creation. It takes a long time to make these sometimes, folks. For all 3 to be hitting at once is definitely a coincidence.
Yeah.
But I thought we'd start with something fun. I know you a little bit. And one thing I know about you, I know a lot of the things you like, because I like a lot of the same things. We talk about horror. We talk about a lot of the same artists and writers. But one thing you really love, if I'm not mistaken, is Christmas.
That is
Is that accurate?
That is completely accurate.
I would love to know, is it just that you have good memories of the holiday, or did you end up falling more in love with the lore? Because you will go and see, for instance, the Krampus parades in Germany and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true, and it's both, right? So it's a combination of me having kind of fond feelings of Christmas as a season and as a feeling, right? Mm-hmm. From when I'm a kid, and I have all these memories, family parties and that kind of stuff, but also things like seasonal specials coming on. Love to see that word special swirling around coming up, and it's going to be a Rankin Bass or or Garfield. Yeah. Oh man, everyone's dropping the Benito lore in the comments.
No, I'm just like I want to talk to you. I was just highlighting a couple comments here and there while you were talking.
No, I saw someone say soup and my attention was diverted.
I know, because you do love posting on your social media about soup, but soup is its own thing. We'll keep soup for the next interview.
For some people, I'm just the soup guy. But anyway, so it started with that, but then I got really serious with it in the Pencil Jack days. Is when I started getting into the lore of Christmas, the actual folklore, right? And because there's so much interesting international stuff, and around that same time is when people in the U.S. started finding out about the Krampus, and it was on Venture Brothers and then Colbert and that kind of stuff in like 2004, 2005. And on Pencil Jack, we had a themed, like, everyone draw this theme, and I came up with the theme, and the theme was Santa versus Dracula. And
oh my God, that is so long ago that I'd honestly forgotten.
This is like 20 years ago. Yeah. And so because and you can see this in like Tales from the Bully Pulpit, a thing that I'm very interested in is like iconic figures, people and concepts that are more of an idea than an actual individual. And I wanted to think, and I like the idea of those kind of icons clashing. That's how you end up with the image of Abe Lincoln punching Hitler, right? That was the image that led to the birth of Tales from the Bully Pulpit. So when I thought, what's another clash of icons? Santa versus Dracula, right? And at that time, I hadn't dug too deep into it, but I became obsessed with the idea. And now, over 2 decades later, I still am.
And you've made a couple like sort of more digital comics about it, right?
Yes, I've had back when I used to work for Comics Alliance, and even before I worked for Comics Alliance, I used to post Christmas comics there, usually short ones, stories of St. Nicholas or the Krampus, or different traditions, different real traditions that I turned into. What's
that Welsh stories? One, Benito, with the horse skull?
Yeah, that's the Mari Lloyd. Which is it's a Welsh skeleton horse that goes around from door to door during the Christmas season, the 12 days of Christmas, and so on. There's a lot of really cool, weird, interesting stuff, and I post a lot about that stuff on my Patreon. For example, I've got a book that I'm working on there that on the $5 tier, you can see whenever I update the giant Christmas book I'm writing, prose book. It started off as it was going to be the like Marvel handbook of Christmas.
Yeah.
Except now it's more like the Silmarillion of Christmas. So
we're going real nerdy tonight. All right.
Yeah. It's not the same. It's not quite the same vibes as like the Silmarillion. It's not as dry as that, I hope.
No, it isn't.
But so I'm still, I got to the point where I'm so obsessed with this stuff. I'm writing basically an encyclopedia of it.
I hope that like at some point you consider that in print, just because Christmas has quite a long history in being a subgenre within comics.
Yeah, it would be really cool if, for example, December 2025, I released an 80-page giant full of Santa Claus and Christmas comics, right? Like that would be really cool if that happened.
Are you hinting or are you hoping?
It's a hint. It's not announced yet, but that's exclusive, baby. That's exclusive for Comic Tropes.
Yes, exclusive for Comic Tropes. There might be a new Christmas comic this year, folks.
And
not to take your thunder away, but have you noticed, like, how there have been some really amazing Christmas specials and one shots lately? Like,
and I love to see it.
Four Gather for Christmas by like Eric Powell and Becky Cloonan and
that one was great. Yeah, I pick them up whenever I see them. I especially love stuff.
The Santa Marillion.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
but yeah, I especially I love seeing some of the international Christmas lore getting incorporated into books.
Yeah,
Mostly it's Krampus, and that's fine because that's what most people know.
it's interesting.
But you see things like the Yule Lads get used more. Obviously, Grant Morrison and Dan Morrow were doing a lot of that stuff in Klaus, which was a book that I loved a lot, but also was intimidating to me because it was one of my writing heroes doing a book very much like the kind of book I've been working on for 20 years, but couldn't quite get together. But there's a lot of differences between the theoretical 80-page giant that's going to be available December 2025 theoretically. Pretty different from Klaus, but except the idea that it's like dark fantasy adventure with Christmas people in it. And so yeah, I love that stuff. And honestly, I've said in public, like I love writing comics and I love writing all kinds of comics, but like to really feel fulfilled, all I would need to do is write Hector Plasm and Santa Claus comics. And so if I can get to a point where I can live off of those two things, I think that would about cover most of my bases for me to be creatively fulfilled.
I don't think you'd get burned out writing stuff like that forever. I really
no,
don't,
because I mean,
I've known you a good chunk of your life now, and you've never like lost interest in
I mean
deeper and deeper.
That's the stuff in my soul, so, and plus it's versatile enough that I can do just about anything with those characters, right? They're both, Santa Claus and Hector Plasm are both characters who it's baked into the premise that they travel the entire world and encounter all kinds of different things. And so, I can have all sorts of different settings. With Santa, I can do different time periods. With Hector, it's more limited, but I can pull on all sorts of different genres and stuff as well.
That's beautiful. We should talk about some of your current / very near upcoming comics so that people like are aware of this stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll learn a little bit about your process along the way. Let's start with Blood and Thunder because it's a book that's currently coming out monthly. And,
yes, and in fact,
number is often here in the
number four.
Chat.
Number 4 is coming out next Wednesday. It looks like this. EJ drew this beautiful, really super elaborate church nave, and then our giant ass logo is covering up most of it. But
it is a huge logo.
I love that, dude. I was so psyched when they were like, "How about this for the logo?" And I said, "Can we make it bigger?" No, I'm just kidding. It was and I feel like that fits the tone of it because it's like big logo. That's what we want.
It's big. I think it would be fair to say that, beyond being a sci-fi adventure, it's also a bit satirical of all sorts of, societal norms and stuff. It's not quite as silly as Futurama, but it's got some of that baked in, right?
It absolutely.
It's satirical?
I always have to be careful when people ask me about like what are the inspirations, and I'm like, well, Futurama, but don't think it's not silly, right?
No,
and also it's like it's funny, but it's not a comedy, right? Like it's funny because the characters say funny things. It's not like something like Bully Pulpit where it's building up to thank you, Owen's reviews. Thank you, Randy. It looks good. You know it's good because you've paid money for the issues, right, Randy? Anyway, but so it's like hopefully it's funny and fun, but also people recognize that there are stakes, there's emotional stakes, there's there's real danger, people's lives are in danger, and that kind of stuff. So but yeah, Futurama for sure, that kind of satire is a big part of it. It's really interesting. So many people, my British friends who read it all mention 2000 AD, and it's like, well, I didn't grow up with 2000 AD. It took a while before that was easy to get in the US. And it's like, I have some Judge Dredd collections and stuff now, but most of my 2000 AD exposure was secondhand because I was reading American comics by all those British writers who had already worked on 2000 AD, who were bringing that sensibility to American mainstream books or Vertigo or whatever. I would love to have an issue where the whole cover is the logo.
Dude, you know what
EJ would probably be like, I don't have to draw one this time.
Well, you could in a way.
He still would though. That's the thing about
would.
EJ is he would still draw a super intricate cover that would be 100% covered up by the logo. He would. Still
I know. The man is like a detailed maniac it's crazy. Take care of your health too, EJ. But
yeah.
Despite whatever Benito tells you, take care of your health too. Well, sometimes is you say that EJ has like a great background on the upcoming issue 4. If there's so many variants by great artists, but it would be cool to see a virgin one sometime.
Yeah, I think we've asked about that, especially for this particular issue because the background is so detailed. Hey Ben, yeah, dude, it does have violence and some cusses. It's got many cusses, which is I don't know, part of the appeal. I was actually talking to my wife about this like yesterday. When I first started writing Blood and Thunder, I was like, what if I didn't use swearing? What if I didn't use profanity? Let me try it. And I wrote like a couple of pages and I was like, this sounds completely fake and inauthentic. And I went back through and added in a lot, more than I normally do. And and I was like, this feels a lot better and it flowed a lot more naturally. I know it's probably a lot for some people, but I only put it where I thought it sounded right, especially for the character of Blood. She Bloodso herself likes her cusses. And so yeah, there's a lot of it. I had to hit a point where I gave in and I was like, all right, I can't let my parents see this book. That's fine.
Like who are you writing for?
They know the book exists. They know it's violent because I showed them some of the art a long time ago, but there was no lettering on it yet. But I don't know, man. Like I think they can see cartoon blood, but I don't want them to see all these F words and think less of me as a person.
Let me ask, when you do a book that's set in the future and has aliens and sci-fi tech, do you put any thought into ways to make it like relatable in terms of, I don't know, a job or a relationship or anything like that to ground it? Do you put it, or do you just sort of try to have fun with this one?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a combo, right?
Okay.
I would, when developing the world and that kind of stuff, I was kind of sweating because, prior to this, all the sci-fi stuff I do is fairly silly, right?
Sure.
I did Bully Pulpit before this. I did a story called Rocket Rooster about a 3D printed cryptocurrency mascot who travels the universe in a rocket. And I did a story called Charlotte Thunder about like a steampunk hero who flies on a giant winged brontosaurus. And that kind of stuff. And so when I was working on this, I was like, how do I make a more serious or at least more dramatic sci-fi environment? And then eventually I just kind of landed on, I'm just going to write, I'm going to write what feels right on the page, but also I'm just going to take, more grounded concepts, and then I'll let the tone of the art and the colors and that kind of stuff carry a lot of the sci-fi feeling of it. So a lot of times in the script, it would just be like something like, this is a bar. There are people there, except sci-fi. and then I would let EJ make it sci-fi. And sometimes I would leave, I would let my own influences in the script remain vague. I would not say, I'm thinking of this visually when I would write the script, because then EJ and Michelle, also the colorist, could bring in their own thoughts and perspectives and influences on it. And so you end up with something that is not so purely my influences and inspirations, but instead a collaboration of a number of different people. And so it has more of a unique feel than if it came out straight as me thinking, oh, I should do a scene like X or Y movie or whatever,
Yeah. Well, I like it so far. Just a bounty hunter, and her backup is the talking gun. It's funny that you just mentioned British friends going like, oh, like 2000 AD. I almost did an accent, but I won't. In a way, the satirical part of Judge Dredd, I get that. But did you ever read Rogue Trooper?
I haven't, but I know. But now I know. Now I know
okay.
that the premise is similar.
Well, not the premise. It's just that he has. It's kind of different. He's got like 3 dead buddies, like AI personalities, are on his helmet, his gun, and his rucksack. So
right. Okay.
he does have people to talk to, but it's not quite the same as what you've got.
Sure. Yeah. No,
I was just wondering. No worries.
No, I hadn't, and also that was part of kind of the premise that Robert brought in, right? So like Blood and Thunder started off as a concept by Robert. It was a project that he and I were going to work on way back in the Pencil Jack days. And it was like originally before it was called Blood and Thunder, we didn't have a permanent title, but we were, as a placeholder, we were calling it Space Police. And the Blood character was a human police officer, but she had a talking gun. And also the idea was the city where she lived has the it's an asteroid with a cityscape, a skyline going up and then one going down 180 degrees from it, and that was kind of where we started from. And then at some point Robert came across the phrase Blood and Thunder, and he was like, what if we called it that? And then also changed the characters' names. And also because if she's going to be blood, she should have hair that's like blood. And so now she's an alien. And that's, I thought about it. I was like, okay, well, if she's going to be in this world, she needs to be more outside of the system. And the reasons for that, I think will become clear if they're not already. But
I like it though, Benito, because that simple idea of like changing it from human to an alien just gives her just enough of that outsider status that I think we as readers can place ourselves on that character just a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like how
it's
X-Men or stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's the driving force of the story, right? Is the fact that she's an outsider that wants to be inside. I know a lot of people associate the phrase Blood and Thunder with Moby Dick because of the song by Mastodon, but I don't know the origin of the phrase, but it is one that goes back quite a ways. It's not super uncommon, but I know Robert found it in a Jack Kirby comic, but I can't remember which one. I know it was something. I know it was something like maybe his 70s Black Panther run or Captain America or the Eternals, something from that era, from his return to Marvel in the mid-late 70s. But I can't remember what book it is. I've flipped through a couple trying to find it, but I can't remember what it is. But yeah, it's a phrase. And now that the book is out, I've come to realize how much people like that Mastodon song.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that you get exposed to these things.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. We're already talking about you collaborating with Robert.
Yeah.
So we should talk about Capes, which is an upcoming book that you will be sort of taking over, we'll call it, because I'll just set this up real quick, folks. Another friend that we had from those Pencil Jack days, one that I'm definitely still in touch with a lot, Mark Englert. He does a lot of coloring these days in books like, a lot of Kyle Higgins stuff, No One, things like that. And he does prints, but he does comics. He originally drew a 6-issue series, 6, right?
Which of Capes?
Of Capes?
Yeah. It was the original print version was 3 issues, and then they did 3 more issues spread out as backups in Invincible.
That's what it was.
That was collected as a 6-issue trade, even though it was 3 issues and then 18 backups or something like that.
And I'll be honest, Mark is so nice. He always is showing me his work in progresses, and I keep my lip zipped because it's not my place to talk about it. But he's been remastering all these pages, folks, because he kind of drew it pretty fast when he was originally getting the opportunity. And he's grown as an artist. It's been a long time. This is set in the Invincible universe. Mark has been redoing these pages. They look great. They're going to come out. And then the story's going to continue. And that's where you come in, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, they're doing these remasters of the original 6 issues. And, the original 3-issue miniseries was coming out very shortly after Invincible started. And so there was a lot of crossover. And it's been out of print for such a long time that I feel like a lot of people in the Invincible universe are not as familiar with capes as they are with like Tech Jacket and other stuff that that has remained in print more. But there's so much crossover. It's very funny because the Ryan Otley cover they've done for the remastered #1 very clearly highlights the characters from capes who have been on the Invincible TV show. Because it's like, here's Machine Head real big, here's Titan, here's Kid Thor, here's Knockout, here's Bolt. These were the ones who had speaking roles on the show.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's
Smart.
It's still kind of funny. And so, they've done a remaster where he's redone all of the art, and it's really interesting to see because I know he has, I don't know for every page, but maybe every page he's done an animated GIF where you can compare the old page with the new page, and you can really see what he's done. It's not a matter of like complete redrawing because you can see it's the same layouts and everything, but he's just really tuned everything up, filled a lot of backgrounds out and that kind of stuff. It's really cool. And Robert is doing some touch-ups on the dialogue and stuff, probably to make some of it more up to date because I don't know, he wrote that in 2003, and so
this is over. But that brings me up to my follow-up that where you get involved is okay, so like that's over 20 years old, this comic set in the Invincible universe. We all know the Invincible adaptation's going on now, but the original comic is over. So when we get new stories of Bolt and Kid Thor and Knockout and all that in capes, is it going to continue as though it's back then, or as though it's like in the present day?
Well, neither. So it's not going to pick up from the end of issue 6, right? Because I don't even remember exactly where that would be in the Invincible timeline, actually. So the story, the first storyline, let's put it that way. Let's be optimistic. Maybe this book will do Battle Beast numbers and I'll be on it for the rest of my life. But the first storyline is going to take place during roughly around the same time as the Invincible War, which is not the Invincible War, sorry, the Viltrumite War, which is basically what season 4 of the show is going to be. And so it overlaps with the Guarding the Globe miniseries that the first one, the one that I wrote. And so if we think about it wasn't intentional, Mike, it just worked out that way. And some of them do, Randy.
Well, if it's set back then, I guess that like could leave the door open that there could even be at some point a crossover with Battle Beast if both these books are going on.
But I'd have to think about the timeline there. But so basically, if you think about that Guarding the Globe miniseries as looking at what's going on Earth while Mark and some others are in space, I hope that's not too much of a spoiler for people who don't know. But Mark is going to go to space in season 4 of the show. But so we did that series so we didn't lose touch with Earth. And
right.
So the idea of this cape story is if Guarding the Globe is here's the A tier heroes, what's going on with the guys who are typically the background figures, right? Like what are they doing? The guys who are seen as the minor league, right? And so in that Guarding the Globe series, Kid Thor and Knockout join the Guardians. How do their co-workers at Capes feel about that?
Interesting.
And so that's kind of where the story starts. There's a lot of focus on Bolt because he's kind of the main character of the book, but it is a team book. So I'm also trying to give at least some texture to a lot of the figures some of which have never even been named on panel. There's characters like Camelot and Blue Blast and Battery Bill and Brain Boy and other ones that don't have B names. But a lot of those, have never even been named. And so I want to give them something to do on page, and let's learn a little bit more about Night Knight. I mean, why not?
Night Knight.
Right. And so,
yeah. So I like the idea though of following a team that's doing it as a paid job,
mm-hmm.
and everybody's going to have a different amount of commitment to it as a job, and a different idea of what heroism means. I mean, you're sort of taking,
and so there's definitely, I've been trying to maintain, the original Cape series leans heavier on comedy than a lot of the other stuff in the Invincible universe, partly because it's essentially a workplace comedy about superheroes.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm keeping some of that stuff, right? Some of the Office flavored things where it's about, this is HR and, it's superheroes, but they have a timesheet, that kind of stuff. So, so some of that element, I'm trying to keep that element there.
Cool.
But also hopefully telling an exciting, superhero adventure that once again has personal emotional stakes for the major characters, because how do they feel about Kid Thor moving up to the majors, right? So
that sounds interesting. I can't wait. I'm really excited. I think a lot of people are excited for more Invincible universe stuff. So
yeah. I think now is a good time, and I really think the success of Battle Beast has shown that there is a real desire for more stuff in that world. So
no question. I really would love to talk about another book that you're able to do that's way more your own. You and Nate Bellegarde had done several Hector Plasm comics. And I'll just keep it as simple as possible. He's a type of supernatural detective. But he's not as tough as, say, Hellboy, and he's not as sort of cool as Dylan Dog. Help us understand, who is Hector Plasm? What's his personality? What's his sort of lane?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. The easiest comparison is Hellboy, but Hellboy's a tough guy. He's a stubborn guy. He's been grim fighting Lovecraft monsters, right? At the most basic.
Yeah.
So Hector Plasm is a different kind of guy. They're similar in that they both have this kind of very mundane approach to the supernatural because it's their day to day, right? For Hellboy, it's similar to Capes because it's like in the original stories in Hellboy before he eventually moves out into the world. But in the early days when he's with the BPRD, it's a clock punching kind of thing, right? This is my job.
Yeah.
This is another day at work fighting, punching a werewolf or whatever, right? So for Hector, it's similar, except it's not his job. It's just his life. Since the time he was born, he's been surrounded by the supernatural, and he has an obligation to protect people from witches, but also he's kind of a liaison between the living and the dead.
Yeah.
He protects people from ghosts, but also he keeps living people from abusing the dead, and that kind of stuff. He also encounters demons and other monsters, but it's.
And you're doing something very different this time, though.
Yes.
It's coming back, and this is a great jumping on point because it's a new artist and it's a very different type of mission. What's he doing this time?
Yeah. So you mentioned the new artist. The new artist is Derek Hunter, who is great. He's done, plenty of comics before. He's currently doing Small Bites, which are the backup story in the Walking Dead Deluxe. So if you're reading that book, they're there. He also did a book called Pretty Violent. But he primarily works as an animator, and he's worked on some of the best animated shows of the 21st century, including Adventure Time and DuckTales, the DuckTales 2017 reboot, among other things. And believe me, my nephew was very impressed that I was working with a guy who worked on Adventure Time, and I showed him his IMDb page and everything to prove it. Well,
how about DeForge? That was another guy that we knew back in the Pencil Jack days that worked on Adventure Time.
I know. I see people you talking about like award-winning alternative comics, and I was like, That guy followed me around a con floor when he was 14.
He was so young the
yep.
first year we met him.
It's like, yeah, I knew him when he was a literal child.
It's creepy.
But yeah, obviously DeForge has done so much stuff on Adventure Time in addition to his numerous award-winning alternative comics.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Derek is like it's a great fit because very different style than what Nate Belgard does. But Nate also had an animation background, and I honestly think that some of that energy helps with Hector Plasm because he is so sort of stoic and calm, but the world around him is dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. And so this new story, which is issue 1, is coming in October, time for Halloween. The new miniseries. So previously, we did 2 one-shots that because the original Hector stories were all shorts. Some of them were backups that ran in Invincible. Some were stories that ran in different anthologies. And so we collected them. We did 2 48-page specials that collect basically all. There's one story. There's one loose story out there that we'll find a home for eventually. But yeah, this is an extended 3-issue miniseries. You know, not too long, but certainly the longest Hector story that we've done, and it's called Hunt the Bigfoot. So it's Hector Plasm Hunt the Bigfoot number 1 coming in October, available for pre-order now. Tell your local retailer. But yeah, so basically Hector finds himself in the nondescript Pacific Northwest, where he has been called out because of a haunted structure out in the woods that teens are going to party to, and some of them have died. And so once he deals with that, suddenly he finds himself asked, hey, you're in the Pacific Northwest. You know what else is up here? Famously, Bigfoot. And so the employee at a local Bigfoot museum named Lip Dyson tries to rope him into helping them track down Bigfoot. Because they're like, if we can find, indisputable proof of Bigfoot, a lot of people are. That's the idea. But if they can find proof of Bigfoot, then suddenly, this tiny Bigfoot museum is on the map, right?
Right.
And Hector's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not a Bigfoot chaser. Also, I don't believe in Bigfoot.
That's fun to put him in that position.
So no, but then people start dying, and it sure looks like a Bigfoot killed them. And so it then is a mystery, right? And so that's how can Hector solve the mystery? Can he prove the existence of Bigfoot? Can he stop the Bigfoot from killing people? Can he save this locally owned small business? So many issues for him to deal with. Yeah, it's a real fun time. I think people will like it. You don't have to read the earlier specials. We're going to have a recap page at the beginning that lets you know what Hector's whole deal is.
Yeah.
And also, you don't really. It's pretty self-contained. If you know that he's a ghost hunter, he's got a magic sword. He makes goop come out of his mouth.
We all do in a way.
You'll figure it out. Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun, and hopefully, it's enough of a success that we can do a couple of these stories a year, right?
That would be awesome, man.
I've already written the next one. It's called The Knight's Pilgrim. That one is set in nondescript Scandinavia. So
there you go.
That one is really cool. I had someone, read the script. There's no art done on that one yet, but the script has been done for a while, and I had someone read it, and they were like, "This is the spookiest one you've done yet." So, hopefully that continues to be true.
Good? You know what would be good, Benito, is you could, without any costuming, cosplay as Bigfoot at conventions.
That's true.
If you folks don't know, because he's got himself like tucked away at the bottom of like his frame. Benito is basically Chewbacca in real life. He's humongous.
I used to say, shoot, what's his name? The Hagrid.
Peter Mayhew?
No. I used to say Hagrid, but I can't say that anymore. Because trans rights are human rights. And so I do not say Hagrid anymore. Now I want to tell people, I'm like, try to envision me Well, speaking of Adventure Time, you know when the Lich dies and comes back as that big baby? Imagine that baby had a beard. And then that's
a gigantic
Sweet
baby
Pea.
with a beard.
A gigantic baby with a beard
That's
that
good.
loves apple pie.
But maybe that's Bigfoot, for all we know.
Could be. Maybe Bigfoot is
maybe we
the
just
Lich
found
returned.
Bigfoot. Bigfoot has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. You're just trying to get noticed. To hunt for Bigfoot. The last page is just you going, "Hey, everybody."
It's me and Mike Norton and Tom Fowler. And we're just like, we've been in front of you this whole time.
Dude, I'm so happy that you are having this conflation of a bunch of comics coming out at once. I've always enjoyed your stories. I really do. So I'm excited and hopeful that this means some new people will get their eyeballs on them. I really encourage my audience to check out these books. You know, I've been saying nice things about Blood and Thunder folks, but big fan of Capes and Hector Plasm, and the idea of you working on both of them is very exciting.
Thanks, dude. I really do appreciate that, and I am excited. And yeah, I know for a lot of people, it's going to seem like, who's this a-hole? He came out of nowhere, and suddenly he's got 4 books in the previews, you know? But like, this is some of the stuff I've been working on for almost a decade, right? Like I started writing Blood and Thunder in 2017, and we're far and done in advance, right? So
that's great.
Like people are asking, I tell people it's like, oh, we've done a lot of work in advance, and like, oh, you've done like 5 or 6 issues. No, we've done 20 something issues. The whole thing is written, and EJ has drawn like 20 something issues of it. So it's like, we're going for a while, gang.
That's incredible.
Hope you enjoy it. And hopefully it sells, because if not, it's costing Robert money. So
no, we don't want to cost Robert money. That would be my God. I was gonna like try to come up with something that he'd have to pare down, but he's not gonna have to pare down no matter what. He's doing fine. He's doing fine. You made a good choice befriending another Sasquatch of a writer.
Yeah, that's true. Robert is another
Squatch.
Do you know Big Clutch? You know Sean? Yeah,
I know Sean.
So
Sean Kirkham we're talking about.
Yeah, Sean Kirkham. He used to be like the publicity guy at Skybound. Now he still works in conjunction with them, but he does not work for them.
He does a lot
anymore.
of variant covers and stuff. He's on
he
Instagram, folks.
He does a lot of variant covers and eBay auctions and a lot of the blind bag stuff. Yeah. He's great guy. But he's another large bearded guy.
He is another Sasquatch.
And so the first time he and I met in person, and I walked up to him, he looked at me and he goes, "Oh my God, he really does collect guys like us, doesn't he?" And and it's true. Robert is surrounded by a lot of guys over 6 feet tall, over 250 pounds with beards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's gonna have to start hiring like pro wrestlers and stuff like that. He's like, Mick Foley, I want you to write the next Invincible spinoff.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, Mick Foley? This is an open invitation to write a Santa Claus story, and I'll publish it.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, there we go.
Foley.
We'll get you two together and do a Santa Claus comic.
Yeah.
All right. Dude, it's literally becoming darker as we do this show, and like the light in the background is like turning you into just Nightcrawler. You're fading into the background.
I got this big window and the sun's going down, and soon all I'll have is the light from my hallway.
I will politely say thank you very much for showing up and giving me way more time than I expected.
Oh, dude, of course.
Best of luck, and I will talk to you online.
I love it. Now I got to go pick up Chipotle for my wife, or she'll yell at me. But great time, dude. Really, thanks for having me. I'd love to come back at any time.
You are always welcome. Open invitation to you, pal.
All right. Thanks, bud.
Bye.
Bye.
That was super fun for me, folks. I talked a little longer than I expected to because I was having fun. You lose track of time. But we are going to just continue the show by moving into the next segment, which is the news of the week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi, guys. This is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
Hey, there we go. And thank you, but everybody, for the kind words. West Coast Dave Vengers. Oh, just since he's here, folks, Dave has a great interview on his podcast, Direct Edition, with Daniel Warren Johnson right now. So you're probably going to want to check that out. He's got a clip of it on his channel as well. Really, really cool. Happy to plug that. Thank you, Steve. Look, isn't my birthday coming up? And look at this. My sister as well. Happy birthday week. Yes. 2 days. Wednesday is my birthday. Trying not to make too big a deal of it, but it is a nice, even, big number. So I do have that coming up. Yes. Oh, look at this. To elaborate with Benito, Blood and Thunder has over 350 pages drawn. Talk about getting ahead. That is incredible. I love it. I love it. Very a lot more than 30. Thank you. This was great. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it, guys. I'd love to see swap that DWJ and James Heron work together. That would be really cool. Yeah, look at everybody's like amazed. Thank you. Yep. Well, I appreciate it. Trying not to make too big a deal of it, but it is a big one. All right. Let's talk about some news of the week. That'll be fun. We'll start with this. This is just crazy. DC accidentally revealed they've got a new live service game in the works. Hey, I got a birthday wish. Thank you, Dr. Shubil. You're so kind. I really appreciate that. Hey, thank you, Rami. No live show on Wednesday. No, and I'll be working. I didn't ask for it off, but yeah. So what am I talking about with this news? So last year, let me level set. Warner Brothers Montreal, game developer, they released Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. But it was that game as a service model, and that part did not go over well. Some people liked the gameplay, the voice acting was acclaimed. They said the story was decent, but like nobody liked the games as a service model. It's not a popular way to do things. But now that same company has inadvertently revealed that they're making another game with that model. Why? Hey, I do wish you luck. Thank you for the super chat and good luck with your new job. Thank you. Right, they famously canceled their Wonder Woman game. I don't know why. Would have been good timing. So this week, what I'm talking about is that there was a job listing on the official WB Games Montreal website for an executive producer for, quote, a high-quality AAA game that will be based on one of the iconic IPs from the vast Warner Brothers and DC Comics catalog. Vague, that's fine. You know, they're not spoiling that. But the post specifically notes that qualified candidates should have experience with post-launch content and live service strategies, and will need to maintain a scalable production environment that supports long-term success. Good luck. Good luck. Not sure that that's the best way to go, but it is what it is. Okay, so these guys are the, what do you call it? The publishers. I thought I said the word publisher for some, but maybe I didn't. Metal Men game confirmed. We should be so lucky. I like Metal Men. They're great. But maybe one of you guys out there has the skills and wants to work on it. I think so, but who knows? You know, if you're going to do anything, like, I guess microtransactions are here to stay. And if people want to buy skins or whatever, fine. But live service, don't want it. Let me just pick up and put down a game. Let me just do that. All right, moving on, some more DC stuff. I'm going to talk about their tease for Absolute Green Arrow, which they did show at San Diego Comic-Con, but there were a few bits of news that I missed that I'm going to talk about now. So DC says that the Absolute version of Green Arrow will actually debut in their Absolute Evil miniseries that comes out in the fall. And then it's going to spin off into a 6-issue series, which, by the way, I believe was the goal of books like both Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter. But Martian Manhunter is so popular, it's going to continue for sure. It's by some people that I really like. Pornsak Picochet. I always butcher his name, but he wrote The Good Asian. Really liked that book a lot. Artist Raphael Albuquerque. Great artist. So good. Pornsak said that his version of Green Lantern will still be a billionaire, and it's going to be about him confronting other billionaires. So they are retaining that element from the main universe. Like it feels like that would have been an easy thing to change in an absolute universe. He's not a billionaire, but he is going to be here. Then again, that will make him more unique in the absolute universe because, of course, absolute Batman Bruce Wayne, not a billionaire. So could work. Could work. Pornsak was originally an editor at Vertigo before he started writing his own comics. And he edited books like American Vampire, which had Raphael Albuquerque as the artist, and now they're working together. I just thought that was kind of a cool bit of a full circle there. Yeah, he'll be even bigger than Bruce Wayne in this. He's going to be 8 foot tall and 2,000 pounds. I don't know how mobile you'd be, but I guess as long as you could fire a bow and arrow, you can just sort of wheel yourself into position and shoot some arrows. Who needs to run around? Who needs to run around? It's about time we had a superhero that was very unmobile. Unmobile. I don't know if that's a term. I'm going to get canceled for even making a joke like that. Did I say billionaire Green Lantern? I screw those two up, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, all the time. Yeah, Power Ring, exactly. The evil version from Earth 3. What else we got for DC? Superman got a statue. I think this is a charming story. I think we can all guess at what the timing here. You know, the movie came out, but this is really nice. It is not DC that did this, but there is a Superman statue. The Siegel and Schuster Society. Their mission is to educate people on Superman's creators, specifically that they grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. They've worked towards bringing a Superman statue to Cleveland for years. Well, this past Saturday, the new Superman statue, which you can see here, was unveiled at the brand new Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster Tribute Plaza in downtown Cleveland, which is apparently in front of their convention center. Hey, you went to the unveiling? That's great. That sounds really, really nice. Yeah, they did it. Squad up on Fortnite. I would like to if I ever get the free time. What else? Jerry Siegel created Superman and Joe Shuster was the illustrator. I don't know why. Sorry, I copied that from somewhere. They co-created him. But yeah, writer and illustrator. When they were teens attending Glenville High School in Cleveland. Weird way to have phrased it. Sorry. The tribute also includes bronze statues of Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, and Jerry Siegel's wife, Joanne, who was famously the inspiration for Lois Lane, as well as a phone booth with Clark Kent's discarded clothes inside. What a pervert. Kids today would have no idea what a phone booth even is. Do they even exist? I mean, I think that you've still got payphones in places like airports, maybe, and probably in prisons and jails and stuff, but a phone booth, I feel like I haven't actually come across a phone booth in like literally decades. No, it is not the first time Superman got a statue. The thing that makes this unique is that it's a tribute to his creators, and it's in Cleveland, a place where they were living when they created him. So that's the cool part. There's also a band inside playing the John Williams Superman theme. That sounds like a really fun thing. That's really cool. Colin Farrell, famously in the movie Phone Booth by Batman and Robin director. What was his name? What was the guy's name that did like Flatliners and Batman Forever and all that campy stuff? I can't remember his name right now. Joel Schumacher? I want to say it's Joel Schumacher. Yeah. What's the mighty Crabjoys invade? Oh, let me acknowledge this real quick. Hi, Chris. Happy birthday. I like this tribute way better than the Jack Kirby way that lasted one single day. What did you think about it? It was still a beautiful tribute. I'm glad that his family appreciated it. I didn't realize that it was only sort of like a one-day thing, but that's New York for you. I guess it's probably a really, really big deal to change a major street name permanently. But anyway, it was still a nice tribute, but this is way more permanent. I agree. It's the kind of permanent thing I want to see. Thank you for the super chat and the birthday wishes. All right, going back to the news. Mighty Crabjoys. What are they? Well, writer-director James Gunn has put this fictional pop-punk band, Mighty Crabjoys, in all of his DCU stuff. They've been in Superman. Superman actually talks about liking them in that movie. But you can see billboards in Peacemaker, in Creature Commandos. Frankenstein wore a Mighty Crabjoys t-shirt. Now it's in the comics, because in Action Comics 28, they appeared on Clark Kent's childhood room wall. Now something new happened. This week's DC Comics included ads for the fictional band having a concert August 16th. So we're not there yet. It has a QR code down here. It directs to a website, mightycrabjoys.tv. It isn't live. I checked it just before the show went. So probably that will go live on the 16th is my best guess. But keep in mind, Gunn plays music with his friends in real life. You know, what was it? The second Guardians of the Galaxy movie. They did that something Inferno. Galaxy Inferno? Some song like that. Anyway, I think that there's a good chance on the 16th that we might hear some real songs by the fictional band. Mighty Crabjoys was in the credit. Yes, that's right. There was at least one song while the credits played. Could be fun. I literally did forget, but you're right, guys. There was a song by the band. So it was called Guardian Inferno. Yeah, mucous membrane is mentioned in the top left of this ad here. And that in the comics is John Constantine's band, Black Canary, of course, famous for her voice. I don't know that she's usually a singer. Oh man, you ever see that Batman Brave and the Bold episode where Neil Patrick Harris played the new villain Music Meister? That was cool. Big deal. I'd rather have a pickle and call it a big deal. Constantine, I know. Yeah, Alan Moore says that as how you're supposed to pronounce it. My bad. So, moving on. By the way, just there's not a lot to say about this, but James Gunn did hint at a Superman sequel, but that's not a sequel. Specifically, people were talking to him on Threads and saying, like, you know, now that Superman's out and the press tour's finished, do you have any time to relax? Gunn replied, Peacemaker press. He's promoting season 2. And sequel writing. He does say sequel. He goes, I'm a little confused right now. Is this the same movie you've talked about in the past, the one where you said Superman had a major role but wasn't exactly a sequel? Or is this a different movie and the one is actually Superman 2? Gunn replies, yes, sorry. This is the same movie. Superman has a major role. It's not Superman 2. I don't know what that means. Could that be something like a Justice League? Could that just be a team-up movie with Superman and someone else like Batman? I don't know. Yeah, the Authority does seem like a possibility. They at least planted the idea of what they didn't call it Stormwatch in the movie. They called it something else. But you know, Engineer is in it. It could be Superman and the Authority. I don't know. Oh, crypto movie, yes. Dude, I would love a Jimmy Olsen movie at this point. Justice Gang movie? I don't think so, but it's hard to guess. Oh, it was called Planet Watch. Everyone is telling me. I knew it was close, and that it was like, I mean, it really did take Luther and put him in the role of Weatherman to a degree. Took some of that, some of those ideas from sort of the Warren Ellis era of Stormwatch. All right. What else we got? We'll switch over to Marvel, but we'll stay in the movie news stuff. This week, we got some confirmations on new actors that will be in Spider-Man 4. Still don't know the plot, but came in a weird order. Friday was Spider-Man Day, so Marvel and Sony just had like this tease. It was like, they're calling it like a trailer, but it's not a trailer. It's just Tom Holland walks up in the new Spider-Man suit, which, is classic red and blue and looks like Spider-Man suit. But it was also confirmed this week that Mark Ruffalo will return as Bruce Banner / the Hulk in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Did not expect that. They also confirmed Michael Mando will return in Spider-Man 4. Now, he played Mac Gargan in the first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, Homecoming, and in the comics, Mac Gargan becomes the villain Scorpion. So it's still hard to know where this is going. I mean, we've now got confirmed like that Hulk and Punisher are in it, which is definitely weird to have both of them. What I'm leaning towards suspecting is this could be Peter in college. He does go to college, pretty early in the comics. We know that Zendaya and what's that kid that plays his friend, something Batalon, Jacob Batalon. They're both in the movie, and they were both going to college. So maybe everybody's in college, and Bruce Banner is more of like a professor. Like that would be an easy way to sort of roll him in and put him in as a mentor. And then I'm just thinking with like the villains that they're hinting at, it does seem like sort of a gang war type of a story. But I don't know. I'm just like really spitballing there. Yeah, could be fun. Dude, Michael Mando is so good. He was incredible on Better Call Saul. What a character arc for that villain that he played, Nacho. Oof, just wild. He was good on stuff like Orphan Black, but he was incredible on Better Call Saul. Yeah. Hulk is just Hulk, and Frank Castle is the one that's teaching at college. Welcome to, Pain 101. Your teacher is Frank Castle. That might have been from a different movie. As long as they don't introduce Jackal and clones, I'm fine with whatever. But if they did do college, maybe that would explain that Sadie Sink could easily be just another fellow college student. Doesn't necessarily even have to be anybody too like a superhero or anything. She could be Carly Cooper or something along those lines. The upcoming X-Men director promised that the next X-Men movie will be recognizably different. So Kevin Feige recently confirmed that the Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier is going to also direct their X-Men movie. Feige also said that it would be a youth-focused team. That just makes sense. I mean, you got to keep these costs down, and you can't be hiring a bunch of existing name actors for a big X-Men team. You have to sign some new up and coming talent. It's just a way to help with the budget at this point. What else? In an interview with Playlist this week, Schreier agreed that the MCU take on mutants would be recognizably different. He was asked, he was like, will this be a recognizably different take on it? And he said yes. Although, how different do we want it? I mean, in some ways, Fox got it right. Another thing that Jake Schreier said, quote, "What I can say is it's just inherently interesting and complex material. The core idea of what X-Men is involves complexity. It's an incredible opportunity with super interesting characters and much internal conflict. These characters are wrestling with their identity and place in the world. That's inherently interesting and complex material." Yeah, hopefully. Oh, that's a good point. True, too. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to intro the X-Men, you want to keep them around for a while, ideally. I like Thunderbolts quite a bit. You know, I would say financially it underperformed, but I think that the reviews were pretty darn good. And I thought it was a really good movie. I would be curious. This guy behind X-Men is fine with me. I just hope they have sort of just a classic idea of them as students at school and battling evil mutants. I don't want to see it jump straight to cosmic. I don't want to see it jump straight to Days of Future Past again. You know, I'm not against ideas like Sentinels or villains like, you know, Magneto or something. I'm not at all. I hope that X-Men starts small and goes in a somewhat chronological order to the comics so that we can like adapt things with the right team. But really, like, or just give us something new. You know, like if you're not going to give us the X-Men versus the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, that's fine. Just give us like another villain that's been in the comics. Like I'll even take the Brood, you know. It would be easier than ever for Marvel to do the Brood because that was such a rip on Aliens, but Disney owns Aliens, so you could do it. In fact, you could use literal aliens if you wanted to, but they probably wouldn't. Yeah, versus the Hulk villains, the U-Men. Oh no, the U-Foes was what I was thinking of. Excuse me. Magneto is right. X-Men: The Breakfast Club. I'd watch that. And you know where you know where some of these characters go now. I think that you do use actually Magneto again, even though he's been used a lot. Like I think that you have him as the enemy in the first movie, and you have him change his ways a bit and become a teacher. I think you can't do a lot of Magneto as the villain anymore. He's really changed his viewpoint in the comics, and I don't think you could keep using him anymore. Avengers versus Aliens was actually a really cool miniseries. I liked it quite a bit. Marvel is going to print an Amalgam book. This one. Hellfire Club, I'd totally take. Yeah, don't just give us Sebastian Shaw. Give us, like, you know, the whole Hellfire Club. That would be fun. That would be really cool. Vienna, sure, that's a bit of a stretch. Hopefully not another Dark Phoenix anytime soon. I agreed. You got to build that up more to get there. But whatever. All right. So what's this? Marvel is reprinting one of the, there have been 12 Amalgam books, to be clear. This was one that they made with DC back in 1996, and they're reprinting it. Specifically, they're going to publish a facsimile edition. So it's going to have all the original ads, all the original pages. It's just a complete reprint of what was done back in 96. This was by writer Carl Kessel, artist Mike Wieringo, the dearly departed Mike Wieringo. Comes out October 1st. If you've never read it, this was definitely one of the highlights out of the 12 books. It acts as though it's been going on forever. It's like Marvel and DC characters merge. This merges Superboy and Spider-Man, obviously, as well as villains like I want to say Brainiac and Carnage, or maybe it was Metallo and Carnage. It's hard to remember. But it merged a bunch of their villains. And yeah, it's a really fun book. It's a really fun book. DC published all but 2 of the Amalgam books in an omnibus that came out at the end of 2024, but maybe you didn't want to read all of them, or maybe you just feel like reading, like, just for nostalgia's sake, something like this. If you've never read it before, this is a nice intro. So yeah, the original Wieringo cover reprinted. It's just really cool. It was a fun little time and experiment. It was good. Wanted to put that on people's radar if you haven't read it before. Another Spider-Man thing is that Venom is getting a red and blue suit. Obviously, Peter Parker got the black and white suit, and that became Venom, but now we're going the opposite way. Venom is going from the black and white suit to the red and blue. So in November's Battle World number 3, which is celebrating Secret Wars, where the suit was first introduced, Venom is going to get this suit that we see here, and that mirrors Spider-Man getting his black suit during Secret Wars. But this is even more of a fun reason why they did it. So, in Amazing Spider-Man number 252, that was by Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz, Spider-Man returned from Secret Wars with a new black costume that was later revealed to be the alien symbiote Venom. Now, it's been over 40 years, but a new comic book legend begins with the debut of a symbiote costume in Battle World number 3 this November that will return the following month in Venom 252. So that's probably why they did it. But it is worth noting, because this starts on Battle World, this is a new Venom, which is, I guess, just sort of more multiverse stuff, but it's not Mary Jane Watson, to be clear. Jose Ladron, yeah, he was good. It does look a little similar to Wreck Rap. Does look similar. Yeah, another new Venom. I think this is the last Spider-Man thing I had, but Marvel 2099 is promising to end with an intro to 3099. So, December, Marvel's 2099 universe is going to return for another miniseries. It's called The End 2099, 5-issue limited series. It's returning team Steve Orlando and Ibrahim Roberson. Orlando has written a bunch of the 2099 stuff for the last couple of years. The story is going to feature Mephisto and Abyssus, who is a fusion of Galactus and Null, if you're not up to date on your 2099 lore, forcing the 2099 heroes and some other multiverse heroes to battle for their future against heroes from even further in the future. It's going to specifically introduce Spider-Man of 1,000 years further in the future. So you can never have too many. Orlando does say that Spider-Man 3099 is going to be an important character moving forward. They had some weird things where they teased that somehow he will also be the first superhero of Marvel. So there's probably some weird time travel shenanigans going on there. I don't know what any of that means. Some guy on Reddit is saying that Marvel stole his designs for that Spider-Man. Are you talking about this one that I'm talking about currently, or are you talking about the black and white suit? Black Phoenix. Just curious which one you're talking about, because I know there's a little bit of a delay. The other thing I didn't care about too much, but it was, who knows what it will become. The blue and gold. Somebody saying on Reddit that they stole his design. Well, I don't know that anybody's got a huge argument there. I mean, Spider-Man has had a lot of variant suits, and this looks not that different from some of the other ones that have already existed. So sort of good luck with that. But when you have, like, you know, a prominent spider and big eyes, and the rest of it is just a skin-tight suit, the exact design of the spider and the color scheme, it's pretty hard to say that you came up with something there, you know? I think that that's a tough argument. I think that's a really tough argument. All right, here's a different type of variant. Variant covers with masks. Marvel has a series of variant covers coming out in September, ahead of course, Halloween time. You could literally cut these out and wear a mask. They're going to do 15 covers, all by artist James Kerrigan, and it's really built on the idea of those simple vacuum formed masks that we all had in, like, starting in the 70s. You could get these licensed costumes for just about anything. You'd have just, you know, a mask with like a rubber band, and boy, did that plastic cut your ears and stuff like that. And then you'd wear a plastic smock that just said what the character wasn't the costume, but would say things like the Flintstones, and you'd have a plastic Fred Flintstone mask. Or you'd have the Amazing Spider-Man, but then it would just say the Amazing Spider-Man, It was crazy how they did all that stuff. We all wear masks. If anybody grew up ever wearing one of those, you'd know that like you could wear it for like a couple minutes and it was fun. But if you went out trick-or-treating all night, that stuff just started to cut you by your ears and stuff. It was so bad. But it is nostalgic. They were popular, probably because they were affordable. Parents could get their kid, like, you know, their favorite character cheap. Here's the ones that they're doing the covers for. Spider-Man, Avengers, they're using Beast. X-Men of the Apocalypse does Magneto. Captain America, One World Under Doom is, of course, Doctor Doom. Amazing Spider-Man also has Green Goblin. Wolverine, Thing, Hulk. World to Come has Black Panther. Battle World has classic vintage Iron Man. Daredevil in his yellow and brown or yellow and red suit. Thor and Vision and Scarlet Witch has Scarlet Witch. So I didn't see any note of like whether they're printing these covers in, say, card stock so that you actually could cut them out. But I gotta say, when you've got the room for the logo on a cover and the mask is only about that big, that definitely isn't going to cover your whole face. It would need to be the whole entire cover. There's no room for trade dress if you're going to try to make that a real mask. So cute, but weird. Cute, but weird. That's what it was. A plastic mask. And then like the costume just like told you who the character was. It was weird. Folks, at some point, I'm not going to have any more Diamond news because they are speed running their own demise. But this is just such a dumb idea that I had to include it in the news. So I am not sure which comic book stores out there are even still using Diamond at this point to distribute anything. There's very little that they have an exclusive on, and they can't even sub-distribute for lots of publishers. But Diamond sent a notice to comic book stores that they're increasing their costs. They're increasing their costs. Hey, Chuck. Twice the price, double the fall. Listen to this specifically. Important update, change in freight costs. Dear Diamond customer. That's adorable. We are reaching out to inform you of an upcoming adjustment to our freight charges effective Monday, August 4th, today. These charges will increase from 3% to 6.5%, more than double if you need help with the math. This change reflects the rising transportation and logistics expenses across the industry. But I thought it was worth noting here, you know, as a point of comparison, Penguin Random House does not charge for shipping. So yeah, it is an expense, but to more than double it, I mean, yeah, I think I said they were trying to speed run their own demise. That's what it feels like right now. I just don't get it. It's like, let's lose all of our clients pretty much. Let's hold hostage some of their inventory that we have in our warehouses and threaten to sell it off at liquidated prices to pay our own bills when we don't necessarily have the legal right to do so. But then let's also turn on our comic book store customers and say that the prices are going up. Like, how could you do this? It just doesn't make sense. Dear Diamond Hostage, we are increasing our prices. It's hilarious. They just aren't. I mean, they literally aren't the same company. You know, they've got new owners, but this is just pathetic. I don't know how to say anything nice. Was Gentle Giant their toy manufacturer? Because basically that as an entity doesn't exist, but all the like toy licenses that they have got rolled into like their new owners are also toy manufacturers. So yeah, they've got the rights to do that. I know, it's like, how are you guys making money with any of this? I don't get it. You will find, Doctor, that this is a long-term plan to destroy you. Doesn't, whatever. I'm going to move on. Got a little bit more news. Oldboy is getting a deluxe treatment. Oldboy is cool. Oldboy has been famously adapted into the hit live-action Korean movie. Fantastic. What was that? Chan Park-woo? I forget the director's exact pronunciation of his name. I should have looked that up. But great movie. Great original movie. Changed things a tiny bit. Very cool movie. Also was turned into a Spike Lee movie around 2013 or so. In America, not a very good adaptation. But it does mean that Josh Brolin was in yet another comic book movie. Along with things like Men in Black 3. That means that, being Cable, being Thanos, it means that Josh Brolin has been in a lot of comic book movies. Park Chan-wook. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you. Good. So anyway, but it was originally a manga, and now it's going to get reprinted in English. Yeah, it is. And it's a good manga. Maybe. It depends on your point of view. It's what inspired it, though. So even if you love the movie more, if you really love it, you might be curious to read the original source material. So Dark Horse Comics has announced it's going to publish a deluxe edition, and that's by creators Garan Chuya and Nobuaki Minagishi. I'm bad at pronouncing some of that stuff. The new volume is going to collect the entire series. That was originally only 8 volumes, fairly short. But this is going to be 2 848-page volumes, 7x10. Basically, I guess I don't have one near me, but like the Berserk editions or the Trigun editions. Hardcover, silver foil covers. And the first volume is coming out January 6th to bookstores, 7th to comic shops. Second one, January 24th in bookstores, 27th in comic shops. Just to be clear, it is $70, so it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap. Hey, thank you, buddy. Speaking of old, I am the old boy now. Everyone celebrate Chris's birth. Well, thank you for the birthday gift. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. That's really nice of you, Chuck. Thank you. Hopefully I'll see you soon. I do like Dark Horse's deluxe hardcover versions. I have the Berserk ones, and I plan on getting the Lone Wolf and Cub ones that they announced recently. When those come out, I'll get those. It's a nice format to have it. You can really just put it on your bookshelf, read a big chunk of the story all at once. I like it. I like it a lot. And I thought I'd put it out there because, I think you could argue that the Korean live-action movie is superior with some of the changes that it made. But even then, it's still interesting to read. Orud. Boy. Yeah, boy. Boy. All right. It might be. Yeah. That's because I would say that the Berserk volumes are about the same size, and they used to be more like 50. So that is a big jump up in price. I was a little surprised to see that piece of it. I don't love that. I'd probably still do it for the Lone Wolf and Cub. But anyway. If you could make any of your private collection a pedigree, what would it be? Well, there's the thing. I wouldn't say that I have all that big of a collection because I sold a lot of it when I moved across the country, and that is 12 years ago. So I've had like 12 years to get comics. But again, those comics are mostly new, current ones, which I wouldn't say is that valuable. So I don't know that like there's much of it that I could turn into calling a pedigree. Even if I started at the beginning, like I guess I could say like my Spider-Man or Batman runs, if I still had them, or X-Men, things like that. I don't know. But I don't have them anymore. Yeah, I sold like 30 long boxes for $1,000. it was just, I had to move, had a job, couldn't take it all. It was just way too much. And that was the most I could get for it. So it just was what it was. All right, moving on. Another piece of sort of manga news. Captain Underpants is getting a manga. I think it's worth noting because this stuff sells quite well. This is comics. Did you not know that already, Dave? I guess I thought I'd talk to you about that. I can give you more details the next time we catch up for coffee. It's just what I had to do. You know what? I didn't read this before. Hold on. Superhero Pantsman. Superhero Pantsman is what it says in Japanese. Doesn't quite say Captain Underpants. It says superhero, Superhero Pantsman. All right, moving on. Dave Pelkey is adapting his Captain Underpants books into manga. Graphics, which is the Scholastic imprint, will publish Captain Underpants, the first epic manga written and adapted by Pilkey and illustrated by Japanese manga artist Motojiro, I should say. It's not Spanish, Motojiro, on April 7th, 2026. Basically all the English-speaking markets, US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Scholastic launched Captain Underpants back in 97, and there are currently 90 million copies in print. 90 million, folks. That's an unfathomable big number. And Dogman, I'm not even counting those. Dogman was a spin-off from Captain Underpants, just to be clear. So don't be surprised if we get a Dogman manga sometime in the near future. Yeah. If you haven't read it, and I'm not an expert really, but Captain Underpants is like two fourth grade best friends draw comics. And their first comic that they create is Dogman, supposedly. But then like the story starts with them creating Captain Underpants, and Captain Underpants becomes like a real character. Doesn't really matter how, but he does. So yeah. Oh yeah. He's making them a lot. So, oh yeah, no question. A new Captain Underpants, like it's going to rocket past 100 million. Did you really grow up with them? See, I'm old enough that I didn't, but you certainly see them at every major store, not just bookstores, but, Targets and Walmarts and stuff. I mean, it's timeless. It's evergreen. And it gets kids into reading comics these days because they are comics. They're not Marvel, DC superheroes, but it uses panel-to-panel storytelling. And I think that, as kids age up and want new stories or even just finish all these, that's when they start trying American comics, Japanese manga, maybe even the occasional bande dessinée. Well, it is being turned into, it's still English. You know what I mean? It's not an adaptation intended for Japan. They're just getting a Japanese artist and telling it with Japanese storytelling conventions. So I almost see this as sort of that bridge between starting with, Dogman and Captain Underpants and Guts and Smile, books like that, and then getting to, trying manga books like, One Piece or whatever. In between, maybe they'll sort of transition with Captain Underpants. A nonfiction book about India riots is getting a print run, and that's a little bit of a behind-the-scenes story that I want to talk about. Joe Sacco. I mean, I don't know if there's really anybody else in comics that's quite like him in terms of making nonfiction comics that are both travelogues and tell you about history, especially history outside of the Western world. I fairly recently reread his book Palestine to get sort of caught up on the history of that conflict from another point of view. It was a really interesting book. Yeah, I really like his stuff. Thank you again, Steve. Dogman, probably the most profitable comic movie 2025. Was it? Geez, I never even looked at those numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised. I bet a lot of people saw it. I bet a lot of people saw it versus how much it cost to make. But so yeah, let's talk about this book. So Joe Sacco's latest comics journalism, I'm calling it, is The Once and Future Riot. And it's specifically about the 2013 Muzaffarnagar riot. And I'm sure I couldn't pronounce that right. I gave it a shot. It's also about the history behind the riots that led up to this between the Hindu and Muslim populations in Uttar Pradesh, India, which is basically the northwest corner of like sort of that region. But that, you know, I mean, India has so many languages and religions. Unfortunately, you know, like Hindu and Muslim populations really don't get along. There've been lots of riots. One of the most famous is this 2013 one. And Joe Sacco made a book about it. Muzaffarnagar. That probably sounded a little better. And that's a fair criticism, because you're right. He is putting himself into a lot of these stories and showing his opinions. It's still, I think, a good tool to learn a perspective. I like his storytelling. Anyway, this book was originally planned to be published in September, but it's now coming out in the US. 75,000 print run. Very good for an indie book. October 14th. October 14th. So why the delay? So originally Fantagraphics planned to print the book in China. It's where they print most of their books. It's where a lot of publishers print their books these days. It's one of the more affordable places to publish books. But the Chinese government's General Administration of Press and Publication objected to map borders that were shown in the book. China is the worst when it comes to borders. They think that they own just about everything, you know, so they fight on borders all the time. I mean, they think they own Taiwan, and the rest of the world's like, as long as you don't invade, I guess we're just going to ignore that. It's a little wild, in my opinion, how yeah, whatever. I'm glad it's coming out. It's something I don't feel I know a lot about, so I plan on picking this up and getting at least one perspective, and then hopefully reading some others and seeing what I can get from that. Another book. Well, that wasn't a book, but like this is a book. Paul Levitz is going to write a Marvel behind the scenes book. There have been some others, so I just used this as sort of like a representational image. So specifically, former DC Comics president Paul Levitz, president and publisher, I should say, Paul Levitz was at San Diego Comic-Con. He had a panel. He announced that his next book is called Marvel Explodes. He called it, quote, an exploration of what happened during the years 1967 to 1975 that transformed one of the smallest American comic publishers into a cultural force. It's not about the stories, but what took place behind the curtain. It's worth noting, before he worked at DC for 35 years, boy, did he put out some great books, by the way, and looked out for his creators. Levitz got his start writing about the comics industry in the fanzine world. He wrote for The Comics Reader. So he knows this time period. You know, he was writing about that time period as it was current. Anyway, no release date for the book. Levitz only just announced it, but it is part of Bloomsbury's Marvel Age of Comics history. Books like this one, like Chris Rial did, Daredevil Born Again. I think Paul Cornell wrote a book about the Avengers in the 70s. There's one about Doctor Strange. There's ones about Miles Morales, I think. So it's a publisher that has a deal with Marvel. To be clear, that means that these are like a nice sort of sanitized version. I don't know like how cutting any of this will get, but Paul Levitz has been a journalist. He's been an industry figure. I'd be curious to hear his point of view on this point in history where Marvel really did explode. You know, it's Marvel has a long history, but if they didn't create something like Fantastic Four, they probably would have gone out of business. Well, we won't hold that against him. Last piece of news. Hundreds of artists are threatening to boycott the Angoulême Comic Book Festival, which is a massive, massive comic convention. It's beyond a convention because it's really like a week-long celebration where the whole town hosts events, and yeah, the whole town of Angoulême, France is transformed into a cultural mecca about comic books. It's a big deal. I've always wanted to go, but this is bad. I'm going to have to be real careful about the language I use to describe what's going on here. So, nearly 400 artists, as well as 12 associations for comics, have now signed a petition that threatens to boycott the upcoming 2026 Angoulême International Comics Festival. Why? Well, the petition accuses the festival's management company, which is known as 9E Art Plus, of retaliating against a female employee who reported that she was, I'm not going to use the words here, S-aid. Those are initials. I'm only doing that so I don't get penalized by YouTube, unfortunately. This is definitely serious. But she was, yeah, she was assaulted at the 2024 event. And then they fired her for reporting that. That's bad. That's real bad. The petition says that the festival's organizers, they're known as FIBD. I'm not sure what that stands for, but it's going to be a French word, so I couldn't even pronounce it right if I tried. They're not only continuing to work with the management company, they're actually discussing a formal merger. Some of the people that have already signed this, these are big names. We've got like Grand Prix winners from the event, people like Chris Ware, Posey Simmons, Art Spiegelman, Emil Ferris, lots of big names all over the world. They're all saying, hey, if you don't disassociate from 9E Art, we're not coming. It'll effectively cancel the event. Like there would be no event if all of these people don't go. Yeah, Dan Klaus, thank you. Horrible. I had never heard about this, that this happened back in 2024. This is when I'm hearing about it now. But anyway, pretty bad news. I hope that the show organizers do the right thing and disassociate from this management company and find somebody else, because that is like, even if these people weren't threatening to boycott it, but I knew about this, I wouldn't go. Now that I know, I'm not going to go if this is what it is. Horrible. Really scary. Really scary. Had no idea something like that ever happened there. Somehow, I'm going to now pivot to doing reviews. That was the news of the week. So now we'll just try to switch the vibe and go into talking about some fun comics.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
All right, I'm setting up my camera. Bear with me, and I will... yeah, there we go. I'm going to add my camera, and we are going to talk about the comics that came out this week. Tell you what, before I even bring up the camera, I read some digital comics that I can't represent here, but that I do want to talk up a little bit. One of them was called, what was it called? Hold on. I got to look this up because... Okay. Lake Yellowwood Slaughter. Okay. Lake Yellowwood Slaughter was a recently funded Kickstarter book that is like a graphic novel adaptation of a fictional 1983 movie. As in the movie didn't happen, but this is supposedly the graphic novel adaptation of it. Art by Gavin Guidry, very cool in that regard. They sent out digital copies, so I'm not going to spoil it, but the digital copy got to me, and I couldn't resist waiting. So I read it. The book is called Lake Yellowwood Slaughter. Lake Yellowwood Slaughter, and what's cool about it is this. Set in 1983, set at a camp. And you're thinking, okay, so it's just going to be what? Like either its own Friday the 13th or a satire thereof? No, it actually adds one more element that I really appreciated, which is that it also pretended like it was an Italian giallo version of that. Like if you know, somebody like Argento had directed a Friday the 13th type of movie, you know? So in other words, you've got the premise and the setting and the characters that you would see in some of those 1980s, you know, camp slasher movies. But you also have the masked killer with the black gloves that are butchering people in very vibrant ways. So to see that together, yes, exactly. Black gloves. You kind of have to have those in a giallo. And there's even like sort of a fun extra bit at the end that plays with the giallo format even more. That said, like while there is some grisly death here and there, it's not like they felt obligated to show every single one either. Like some of it will happen a little bit off camera or in close-ups. In an artistic way that I felt was very in keeping with what movies do. Like they don't, it is a slasher. It is a horror book, but it isn't out there to gross you out. Just to be clear, it isn't like playing that up per se. It's trying to do like the death in a slightly artsy way, although it's sleazy as well. Just to be clear. But yeah, it follows instead of like camp counselors, the big difference is it's following the parents of a bunch of kids that have just started this summer camp. And then they're partying at like these new houses that they've built on the lake. And there is definitely what I will call like the final girl character, Maria, who's really cool and interesting. And she's got a reason for being friends with these people that aren't that awesome. So you really don't mind seeing some of them get picked off. I recommend it, folks. I recommend it. Again, it's called Lake Yellowwood Slaughter by Flying Goats Press. So there might be out there at some point, like, you know, a late pledge or a print edition at a store. I'm just sort of putting that on people's radar. Really, really cool. Another thing that I read early, but I'm not even allowed to spoil, is IDW had sent me the latest TMNT spinoff, Casey Jones. And I was sort of thinking like, well, I love Ninja Turtles, but do we need more? You know, they've already got, you know, Ninja Turtles, they've got Mutant Nation, they've got like all sorts of, you know, one-shots and crossovers and stuff. Is Casey Jones enough to carry his own story? I was surprised by how much I liked it. I really did. It's got Casey reset as a bit of an underdog. He's very likable. He's got an interesting history in the IDW universe where his father was the founder of the Purple Dragons gang. We've got some new elements that are introduced in this story. But, you know, Casey Jones in the Ninja Turtles comic, this isn't really a spoiler about the Casey Jones, is he had been shot. And so he's recovering. You know, he's recovering from a really serious injury and trying to keep up on the level that Ninja Turtles do. I liked it. I liked it. I'd say if you enjoy right now Ninja Turtles and you like Casey Jones, there's a good chance you'll like it. Let me add this camera here so that we can look at what I actually picked up at the store, because I've got some things to show you. We'll do that and that. Yeah. I read an advanced copy of Cul-de-sac, which is out, this coming week. John Wayshak on art, Mike Carey story. I like a lot of Mike Carey. That I'm looking forward to trying that one out. That's on my radar. I was potentially going to not stay with it, but I do like a lot of what Gene Lun Yang has written, and I think Freddie Williams is a rock solid Turtles artist. So I'm gonna keep going with it and see where it goes. Hey, thanks, Mike. Smash that like for Chris's birthday, buddy. Thank you so much. You're the best. Thank you. Yep. I had been talking up these creators' last comic quite a bit. I really enjoyed 8 Billion Genies, but this is called The Lucky Devils. New comic, writer Charles Soule, artist Ryan Brown. They've collaborated on other things like curse words. Great team, great team. Lucky Devils is a really cool premise where there literally are tiny devils that will talk to just you on your shoulder and try to influence you to do bad things. But the story of Lucky Devils involves two devils who are teaming up to use their powers to let people basically be influential for good reasons, because they want to bring hell to the ground. When people do good, it hurts hell. That said, issue 3 of this book came out back in April, and now it's August. So why this huge delay to get this out? Well, first of all, this issue doesn't lose a step. It's still really interesting. Great characters, fun mythology, creative designs, and a huge amounts of twists as the devils that are ruining hell are starting to have their higher ups, because everything's a bureaucracy apparently in hell, starting to find out what they're doing. The people that are getting influenced by the devils meet each other, and that changes some things. And there's also a, what do you call it? Like a devil that's a bounty hunter that gets put on the case of figuring things out. Blah, blah, blah. Great comic, okay? I do recommend it. In the back here, they explain what's happened, why there's been this big delay. There's a very specific reason. So the artist on this, Ryan Brown, he had a stroke. Kind of young guy, but he had a stroke. And while he's recovered physically and everything, he said that like there's a dead spot in his brain that controls the language center. So what that meant was, as he explains it, he could still draw. He didn't have any trouble drawing. But when he'd read the script from Charles Soule, his brain couldn't translate that into images. He couldn't thumbnail it. And it was really hard. And hopefully, with enough therapy that, there's a good chance that could come back, I think. I'm not a doctor, but I think that you can retrain your brain to have new pathways with a lot of these things. But basically, he's like, I could draw. Like, you put an idea in front of me or tell me to draw something that's in front of me, I can draw it. And I don't think he's like, there's any change like in the quality of his art. So I never would have guessed this in a million years if they didn't tell us. Okay. So what he did, though, since he couldn't do it, he reached out to Xander Cannon, who's a friend of his, and Xander thumbnailed this issue. And then Ryan Brown could take that and make that like, a detailed version. So he like couldn't quite come up with the interpretation from the script, that key step of creation, figuring out camera angles and what information needs to be represented. It just didn't work, apparently, which is absolutely fascinating to me. I'm just so glad that this guy is still with us and can still draw. It's a great, great comic, folks. I still strongly recommend it, but that explains what happened. So this is a pretty serious behind the scenes thing. My huge sympathy to Ryan Brown and his family and friends. That sounds like a really challenging thing to go through. I'm glad you're still with us because I really enjoy your comics. And I just appreciate not only that you're still doing this, but that you shared some of that story. And I just wanted to tell you guys some of that story. I recommend reading it and reading like it's basically a dialogue between Charles and Ryan that outlines it even a little bit more. I'm just sort of hinting at the broader story. It's only issue 4. It's, I think, an 8-issue series. I do recommend it. And yeah, it's a really interesting story to read up on, but scary. Very scary. Isn't that amazing? It's so nice of his friend, you know? So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Lot to cover there. So I like that quite a bit. One that I thought that I would like was this. We talked about this a little bit in the news a few months ago. J. Michael Straczynski teamed up with artists and did one-shots where it was always teaming up characters that you would think would never team up, like Doctor Doom and Rocket Raccoon, okay? This is called Spider-Man versus the Sinister 16, but really it's a ton of superheroes. You see like Thor and She-Hulk in here as well, Doctor Strange, but also lots of supervillains, right? The Leader, Venom, Lady Deathstrike, Dr. Octopus. The premise is they've all been invited to the best restaurant in New York City, but the reason for that is the chef has gotten himself into a massive amount of debt, and so he's trying to invite people that will like start a fight, destroy the restaurant, and he can collect the insurance money and like wipe the slate clean. Okay, that's his plan. Does that happen? It's interesting. You know, Peter Parker is there on a date with Mary Jane Watson, and they sort of realize who are coming in. And Mary Jane is like, you know, maybe food is a thing that can like bring people together, and maybe nobody will fight tonight. And Peter's like, you know, I'm skeptical. I don't think that these people can like, you know, coexist. It's a funny idea. It's a really funny idea. It's a funny premise, and there's some good dialogue. But it unfortunately doesn't really amount to a great payoff, in my opinion. It feels kind of standard. I was really hoping for a little bit more because I loved that premise. I would say the first third to half is pretty funny, and then it didn't quite pay off for me. But it might for you. You know, like with a comedy, mileage is very different, right? Everybody's going to have a different take on it. I just saw the new movie, The Naked Gun, a couple days ago. I thought it was really hilarious, but I know that there's plenty of people that will be like, I don't like that kind of absurd humor. I was talking to a friend and he's like, that it's just not for me. Like, I get it. You know, humor is very subjective, but it is meant to be a funny story. Your mileage may vary. Yeah, and Straczynski knows how to write, you know, these characters. He does. The other thing that's a little weird is I don't know if this is set at any specific point in continuity, because Mary Jane and Peter are on a date and she knows his identity. So I really couldn't tell you exactly when this is supposed to take place. I don't think it's important to the story. Take that as you will. Like, I don't know how much you care, but it's sort of nebulous as to exactly when it would have taken. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, you know, one that I was really, really impressed with, Godzilla versus Boston. So, I'm from little south of Boston, but lived in Boston for several years. I love Boston. You know, that's still my home. I love Godzilla. So IDW are doing these like one-shots where they get creators that are either from or have lived for a long time in these cities, and they do like short anthology stories of Godzilla in their city. And I was like, sure, I'll give that a shot. It's so much better than I was hoping for. There are 4 comics in here. I want to talk about one in particular, but the first one is cool. Steve Orlando wrote it, and it takes place back in, 1888. And it's got, you know, whale hunters that call Godzilla the gorilla whale, which is, if you don't know, Gojira is a portmanteau of gorilla and whale. So it's kind of cool to have them do that. And it also involves a huge molasses tank bursting, which is something that did happen in Boston history, but not in 1888. Anyway, it's good. The one I loved is this. This is called Godzilla versus the lobster that attacked Boston. Or as some of you may say, Godzilla versus the lobster that attacked Boston. Basically no dialogue, but there's like numbers to certain panels. This is by Jesse Lonergan, who I talked up once before on this show for his excellent comic. What was it called? Faster, about a race. Okay. And yeah, I mean, on one level, this is a fun comic that has Godzilla versus a gigantic mutated lobster. I shouldn't show all the pages, but on another level, this is such a cool history of Boston because each of these tells you something about it, like the Boston Marathon, the oldest continuously run marathon in the world, first run in 1897. Just has little bits of history like that. Tells you about, the swan boats or certain colleges and stuff in Boston. Just an amazing, amazing history of Boston. Its architecture, its buildings and architecture, the same thing, Chris. All sorts of elements of Boston. Loved it. There's a more esoteric one that's more of like a poem about, a Mothra. What would you even call it? Like worm blossoming into a butterfly. And finally, there's a really cool one that's written and drawn by Hayden Sherman. Obviously very hot right now for Absolute Wonder Woman, showing some what do you call them? Who drives like a train? A conductor. Follows two conductors on the T, which is a Boston subway. And they're trying to lure Godzilla somewhere. All I can say about this one is when I read this in a Massachusetts accent. And it's not written that way. But it felt so authentic, I couldn't help but read it in a Boston accent. This is a great, really fun comic. But that one by Jesse Lonergan, about the history of Boston while Godzilla battles a gigantic lobster. By the way, the lobster is not Ebera, who he fought in the 70s, but it's so good, folks. So good. Really, really recommend this one strongly. It's a one-shot, so you don't need anything before or after. You tell me. What do you think? It's really good. The proper terminology is train makey go guy. Oh yeah, it's not easy, but it makes a certain type of sense within the short story. So I would call it two exceptional stories. One, two that are exceptional, and two that are very, very good. That's a pretty great ratio for an anthology. Two excellent, two very, very good. Does Bill Burr kill Godzilla? Yeah, he does. He really zings him. Faster is being reprinted as part of a current Kickstarter. It's fantastic. Is it really? Well, I did pick that up when he did just like a self-published, but that's interesting. Give me 2 seconds to see if I can pull that up. Because I definitely would I see places where you can order the original one. I can't see a Kickstarter yet. Bear with me. But I'd be happy. I don't see it. Oh, wait a minute. Is this it? Oh, cool. All right, let me pull this up. I think I found it. There. Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to put that up because that sounds awesome. Bolgahan Press presents. Huh. I don't know. I didn't know about that, but folks, Jesse Lonergan is a really cool artist. Really, really, really good panel-to-panel storytelling. Very exciting artist. Let me see if I can, as long as I'm showing that, I'll show another one. Let's see here. This is the one I was reviewing earlier, Lake Yellowwood Slaughter. I don't see a late pledge here, but that's what it's called if you wanted to look it up, and like maybe they'll release a print version at some point soon. That would be nice. And then if I'm doing Kickstarter stuff, there's a couple. Yeah, found it. Hold on. This one looks cool. Maybe I should just have this as a segment and have these already bookmarked in the future. I don't know. I don't always know what's coming up, though. It's hard to keep track. Benito just told me about this one just before we went live. I had missed that, but I like Kyle Starks, and he's doing a Where Monsters Lie book. It's really close to hitting its goal. Just sort of started, but yeah, that's a really good one. Let's see. I think Jim's, yeah, he's got Jim Mafood, my buddy that does Trash Movie Bonanza with me, has a notification page for Arachnid Enforcer. That could be a lot of fun. I definitely encourage you to, did I not hit notify me? Okay. I hadn't hit notify me on that one yet. What else have I heard about for comics? Oh, there was another one I think that I'm just forgetting right now. Darn it. Well, anyway, it's hard to keep track of them all. It's hard to keep track of them all. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's talk a little bit more about some comics that came out this week. That is like super high on my list. Incredible Hulk was fun. Ultimate Spider-Man is getting pretty dark. This does not specifically happen in the issue, though, so I don't like it when covers flat out just give me something that doesn't happen. But you do get to see this. You get to see basically the first version of Ultimate Venom, and it's pretty scary and cool. Actually does some real damage to some people. And one of the best this week was definitely the Ultimates, where Cap and Hawkeye go up against Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who work for, the I don't even know what to call it, but the bad guys that run the world. It's really cool. We get to see Emma Frost for the first time. We get to see a lot of cool bad guys, and we get to see a Cap fight. Cap fights Quicksilver in a very clever way. I just like how smart Captain America is in this. Really, really cool. Any rumors, confirmation when Neon Ichiban launches? I haven't heard any updates. Oh, thank you, buddy. Didn't know you were here, but thank you. Yeah, no, I'm excited for Arachnid Enforcer. I'll have to do some fan art at some point. Yes, Jack? Did you? I guess Jack wants to be on the show. What? Come on over, bud. Come here. Yeah, he didn't want that. All right. Yes, Jack making himself known. I've stopped trying to get him from I would record comic tropes, and if he meowed, I'd just be like, well, I'll have to redo it. But you can only redo it so many times before sometimes you're just like, I'm just going to leave that meow in. It's just not worth fighting. Yes, food. But I hear Chrissy up there. She's taking care of him. Oh, dude. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are really, really cool in this issue. They're really interesting, I should say. Last book I want to talk to you all about this week, I picked up this nonfiction book. I love Guy Delisle's books. Guy Delisle always delivers these huge, thick books. He is a comic book artist, obviously, but originally he was really a Canadian animation producer. He worked for like a Canadian animation company, and he would oversee the artists. So my favorite of his books is called Pyongyang, where he oversaw in North Korea. He lived in North Korea for several months, overseeing animators there working on a Canadian cartoon. And he got to see like what it's like to live in North Korea. It's a great nonfiction book. His wife works for Doctors Without Borders. So he's also got books where he's been in, China, Burma, Israel, some really interesting nonfiction stuff. He wrote a book. A friend of his told him about a hostage situation. It's called Hostage. That's incredible. He wrote about his childhood working in a print press. Anyway, good stuff. What's Muybridge about? If you don't know, Edward Muybridge is a super important person, not just in photography, but in the invention of film, as in moving pictures. So this is his life story, and he is quite a weird, eccentric character. It covers him from like age 20 in 1850, moving from London to New York, selling books, getting introduced to this new technology of cameras with things like daguerreotypes. And within this, we've got things like this. Louis Daguerre's photo from 1838 of Paris. This took so long to expose that while you see the buildings, this was like super busy, but all the people were moving, so you don't see them, except there's one guy that was getting his shoes shined. So you see a silhouette of a man getting his shoes shined here, and that represents the first time a human being was ever captured on film. So there's an amazing bit of history here. The guy went through crazy accident and got brain damage. He killed the man that his wife was having an affair with, and the jury said, that's okay, we would have done the same. So he got away with murder. But he's very famous for his photos of places like Yosemite and Panama. And he traveled the whole world. He was just constantly traveling, taking photographs. And along with that, he met a really, really wealthy man, Stanford, the guy that a train baron who had 700 horses. And Stanford believed that when a horse runs, that there's a moment where all four hooves were off the ground. Now, keep in mind, without photographs, nobody ever knew that for sure. When a horse is at a gallop, you can't tell for sure. And all the paintings that you see prior to the late 1800s always had at least one hoof on the ground, and they didn't know the order that the four legs were really running in. People had their own ideas, but they didn't know for sure. There was no scientific way that it had been documented. But Stanford hired Muybridge, I should say, to figure out how to do it. And a lot of this book is about him doing all these scientific processes to come up with a way to document, the motion of a horse, and then eventually, the motion of other animals and people. And it is an absolutely fascinating history book. I read this in one sitting. It's a little over 200 pages. I'm not kidding, folks. This is just incredible. This is the impact that photography has on artists and painters at the time. The invention of different ways to expose a shot and its evolution. It all happened within this guy's lifetime, and he really advanced photography and still images as well as motion pictures. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. There's a lot of interesting characters that come through his life like Thomas Edison, who feels like a real piece of shit, to be honest. Delisle grew up here in Quebec City. His book about a summer job at a mill is so much fun. Yeah, the printing press one. Yeah, I liked it. I would say that my favorite of his books is still Pyongyang, just a look at North Korea. This is my second favorite, which is definitely saying something because I really like this guy's books. This is just a fantastic book. It was published in English for the first time this year in 2025. These are all people that had huge roles to play in the invention and evolution of film. You know, Louis Daguerre, Charles Baudelaire, George Méliès. You know, they talk about the earliest films. The Lumiere brothers. Jack, what do you want, bud? Do you want to come here? No? I'm trying to review a comic. It's really important. Do you want to help? No? Do you want food? He's fine, by the way. He wants somebody to play with him right now. He wants somebody to play with him. Jack. Muybridge was not his birth name, by the way. He changed his name both first and last, but it was pronounced Edward Muybridge, but he was eccentric. He was eccentric as hell. He doesn't seem like a great person on some levels. Like I say, dude, at like age 40, he married like a 20-year-old woman and he traveled the world taking all these pictures. And then he was like surprised that she was like having an affair. And he just like, he spent like a day getting taken out to where this guy lived and just shot him. And then he just ate. He wants everyone to know how tasty it was. He's so chatty. They're the cutest. Yeah, that's his quote. If I ever make a comic or something on the back, it'll have a quote by Jack. It'll just say meow with an exclamation point, actually. So, folks, absolutely fascinating. I swear to God, you can't put this down. His life was really interesting in the history. Like so much changed with film, but it like on an artistic level and a scientific level. And I found it absolutely fascinating. And the fact that it also includes some of the actual like photos that were taken back then just add to this as a piece of history. I like nonfiction comics and I like bios. So yeah, I had like sketched out a Spider-Man that I was thinking of drawing, but it's already getting late. I'll keep that. And maybe once I see what Jim Mafood's Arachnid Enforcer costume looks like, I'll turn it into Arachnid Enforcer and I'll ink it sometime. No, I don't know anything about Delisle's parenting books. I don't have kids, so I honestly didn't know about those. Oh, but what would I say is the book of the week? Look, first of all, this might make my top 10 books of the year, okay? But it didn't come out this week. So, out of what actually came out this week, the ones I enjoyed the most were these three. Ultimates. Great single issue. Lucky Devils. So glad that it's back. And Godzilla versus Boston. And you know what? My pick for the book of the week this time is Godzilla versus Boston. Anthologies can definitely be a crapshoot. Maybe you get like one story you love and three you don't. In this, I liked all four stories, but I thought two of them were exceptional. So I really, really loved it. And the Jesse Lonergan story about the history of Boston while Godzilla battles a lobster was just an absolute blast. I loved it. So that's my recommendation for book of the week. What do you think? Did I miss any good books this week? Happy 18th. Oh my God. I'm doing some math. You could almost multiply that times 3. You can definitely multiply it by more than 2. Let's see. Is your house just piles of comics everywhere? Not everywhere. Basically here. where I do this, because I do this, I set it aside in a pile. Eventually, the pile just looks too disorganized for me, so I get a long box and I just put them in there without bags and boards. I just don't care too much about that. If I don't know if Dave from West Coast Avengers is still there. He like legit is sort of mad at me for how I just don't care about that part. Chris, have you seen the cover of the newest issue of Alter Ego, the Roy Thomas fanzine? The cover is Roy Thomas hanging out with Wolverine. Oh my God, Roy, you're becoming like a parody of yourself. You're becoming a parody of yourself. Even if I took Roy Thomas's word that he co-created Wolverine, I would push back, because Marvel ran a contest for creating a character in their Friends of Old Marvel magazine that Roy Thomas was the judge on, and there was a submission of a character called Wolverine that had a healing power. And I'd be like, that kind of predates everything you did, but you know, whatever. The cats have no interest in sleeping on top of hard comics now. No, I don't know anything about Ridley Scott working on a comic now. I digitized my collection after being accused of being a hoarder. My partner hated the clutter. I was happy to make them happy. I get that. I would also like to have less stuff in some ways. I would be willing to sell like most of my comics collection, and I just pull out the stuff that I love the most, and anything like, because I've already sold it once and I'd probably be ready to do it again. Not the Wolverine we recognize, but some of the ideas and the name of Wolverine. Did you see DC is finally putting out a collection of Toth stuff? I did not see that, but I'm always down for Alex Toth stuff. Big fan. I've always thought about making an episode about Alex Toth, but it's just so intimidating sometimes to do episodes that are deep dives on creators that I really love. I want to get it right. Let me just see if I can pull something up for you folks. Yeah. Let me show you something. What you see there or here is Andy Olsen created the Wolverine. Now this guy like has sort of like a cyborg metal skeleton underneath, but it talks about, yeah, this guy has the ability to heal, and he's called the Wolverine. And this was submitted to, Marvel published it in Friends of Old Marvel issue 2, which was a contest to create a character. So anyway, just whatever. Have you ever encountered a real Wolverine? No, can't say that I have. Interesting question. Yeah, actually I have parked my car in Harvard Yard. I have. Wolverines are very shy in real life. They don't like crossovers. Oh, that's adorable. I think that will do it for this week. Yeah, because actually I did promise Chrissy that I'd help her. We need to do a little bit of yard work. We need to cut down a tiny tree that's getting unruly next to our fence. You know, good fences make good neighbors. So I'm going to take off, help her with that. As far as the next comic tropes, I'm just in the editing phase for it. I don't suppose anybody out there has already read all of My Hero Academia and wants to help me gather images. That's the part that always takes forever, is just the gathering of the images. If once you gather them, as long as they're labeled well, you know, dropping them in and even cropping them, that's not the time-consuming part. I found that the most time-consuming part of editing the show, the way I make it, is gathering the images. Especially when you're talking about more than one comic, when you're talking about a long run and you need to keep going forward and backward throughout the history to get stuff. because people have like offered to like, edit, and I always say like, yeah, I'd be willing to compensate for somebody for their time, but that's not the time consuming part. Like actually making the cuts and maybe even doing some effects, and I'd be willing to hand that over to a person. It's really gathering the images, and even then, like even if I had them gathered, how do you hand that over to somebody that doesn't know that artist or that comic book and have them make sense of it? Like without spending an equal amount of time writing the script, going for this sentence, use these two images, for this sentence, use this image. I just can't think of a way to do it. You'd need somebody that really, really knows comics on the same level as you do. So I know that some people have editors that know that stuff. I just have never encountered somebody. People are like, I have the technical knowledge to do this, this, and this, and I can work fast. I'm like, yes, but that's not the time consuming part that I need help with. It's the gathering the images and having them labeled. So anyway, folks, I'm working on that though, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be a good one, I promise. And then I've got a bunch of ideas. I want to get back to talking about Wallace Wood. I want to do Alex Toth. I think I want to do one on like some more modern artists like Trad Moore. So yeah, gonna go talk about that. I'm gonna go help my wife and then have some dinner. And thank you all for being so kind tonight. Definitely strongly recommend checking out my guest Benito Cereno's comics in stores now. Blood and Thunder. Okay, cool sci-fi comic, great art by EJ Sue. Not tied to anything else, just a good comic. It's had 3 issues come out. Issue 4 comes out not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. Coming soon, Capes is getting remastered. That's set in the Invincible universe. And after issue 6, news stories written by Benito, art by Mark Englert, and his original supernatural detective, Hector Plasm, comes out in October. So you could tell your comic shop to order that now. Hector Plasm Hunt for the Bigfoot. Thank you for all the super chats and the birthday wishes. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, Benito, for being my guest tonight. Thank you all for the questions and comments and jokes. I'm going to go get some work done. Keep reading comics, everybody. Bye.